That song, "You Made a Way," you may not know this, but it's a personal song for me. And 4 years ago, Brianna and I and the four crazies rolled into town, and God has just done some literally miraculous things over the past 4 years. And so you may not know that, but this is our way to celebrate and just thank God for all that He has done. Now, so if you've been here before me, or you came on in the church when I did, or maybe the past 4 years, today I just want you to be reminded of why you call this place home, why it feels like family, why you love your church. And if you're new here, or you're kind of checking us out, want to know what we're all about, I'm not sure you could have picked a better Sunday, because you get to hear the heartbeat behind our church. Mission, vision, values, what we're about, what God's doing, what we get excited about, and why we love our church. And so about this time every year, we have what's called a family meeting. We are a church family, and so this is our version of a family meeting. Now, I don't know about you, but I have family meetings at my own house, and so the way that works is me and Brianna, we gather the kids around the table, and we bang the gavel on the table, and this meeting is called to order, and we have a family meeting. Now, 3 of the 4 are cool with it. Kara, my 7-year-old little girl, she's stubborn as a mule. And so she rolls up to the table, and she has this exact same look every time, and we have to let her know what's going on. She comes to the family meeting, and she thinks it's going to go one or two ways. She wants to know, is she in trouble, or is she going to get ice cream? That's the only 2 ways that this family meeting is going to go. So we have to go, hey, we're going to need to have a discussion, or hey, we got some good news. I'm here to tell you that this family meeting as a church, it's an ice cream meeting. It's a cupcake family meeting, but it's all good news. And so you get to hear my heart, the mission, the vision, the values of our church. Now, most pastors have a verse or verses that God uses to shape their preaching, pastoring, leadership. Pastor, the whole Bible is good, but there's a couple of verses or a story or something where, God just uses that verse or phrase or word or that story or that encounter in the Old and New Testament. Boy, that just strikes a heartstring with that pastor, and he's done it for me. And so I want to share with you today, the verses that God has used to shape me personally, my preaching, pastoring, leadership, the way I view church, the way I view ministry. And the story in this New Testament takes place in a town called Capernaum. Capernaum was on the Sea of Galilee. It's a real city that you can go and visit today. Not so much a city as it is more of a tourist attraction, but Brianna and I got to go to Israel earlier this year, and we got to go to this little city of Capernaum, and we got to go visit. And so I brought a picture. I wanted to show you of what it is and that you can go visit it. And so there it is right there. And so there's a little town right there. There's the gate that you walk in. It's the tourist town. But the bottom picture is what I want you to zoom in on. The bottom picture is right there on the edge of Capernaum. And when you ever hear about the Sea of Galilee or when Jesus would push out on the boat, this is it right there. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful little lake town right there. And so this story takes place, and it's the story of when Jesus calls Matthew to be his disciple. If you've got a Bible, grab it, and if not, they're going to put it up on the screen. Go to Matthew chapter 9. Matthew chapter 9. Now, this account of Jesus calling Matthew is found in Matthew, and is found in Mark, and is found in Luke. But I like Matthew's account because it's Matthew writing about when Jesus called him. So it's a bit more of a personal take on it. Matthew chapter 9, and here's where it happens in the story. Verse 9. It says, as Jesus was walking along, he saw a man named Matthew sitting in his tax collector's booth. Follow me and be my disciple, Jesus said to him. So Matthew got up and followed him. Later, Matthew invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disreputable sinners. But when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, why does your teacher eat with such scum? When Jesus heard this, he said, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. Then he added, now go and learn the meaning of this scripture. I want you to show mercy, not offer sacrifices, for I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners. This story, these verses, this encounter between Jesus and Matthew and the party that he throws has shaped my leadership, preaching, pastoral ministry in more ways than you can imagine. And I just love this calling of Matthew, and then the fact that Matthew throws this party and invites notorious sinners, and Jesus could care less about the gossip from the religious leaders, and he goes to the people that, the sick people, the people that need Jesus. And I like this story because the first part of my career was not in church work, and I've shared this before. The first part of my career was in real estate and construction sites and that whole world, and got to be around some people that would fit really well in the notorious sinners crowd, if that makes sense. And so when Matthew throws this party and Jesus goes, I just love this, the heart and compassion of Jesus that could care less about what the religious leaders gossiped about and cared more about the people that needed him. So this just strikes a chord with me, and I've shared this before, but man, if you consider yourself a little rough around the edges, you and I are going to get along great. Like if when you stub your toe, the first words out of your mouth are not praise the Lord, you and I are going to get along great. If you're a little skeptical, cynical even, of preachers and church people, you and I are going to get along great. It's just the way God has wired me. And so this story, man, it just strikes a heartstring with me. And so it doesn't really matter where you come from, your walk, your background. When you come here, you're welcome because, man, I love the heart of Jesus, could care less about the gossip of the religious leaders and cared more about the people that needed him. And so today, I just want to remind you, or maybe you don't know this, but of our mission, our vision, and our values as a church. And if you're in corporate America, mission, vision, values mean like 100 different things to 100 different people. And so let me just phrase it for you this way. The mission is why we exist. The vision is what we're trying to accomplish. And our values are how we are trying to accomplish it. So I want you to go back and I want you to look at verse 9. And in particular, what Jesus said. Jesus said, follow me and be my disciple. And so Matthew got up and followed him. The mission of our church is simply to lead people to fully follow Jesus. And I rolled in here 4 years ago. They were like, so what do you want the mission statement of the church to be? Now, this mission statement is nothing unique or creative. I mean, churches in this area have something similar, but I just want to keep it simple. I was like, listen, I just want people to fully follow Jesus. I think every person that walks through these doors or watches online, all of us can take one step closer to being more obedient and to fully following Jesus. And I don't care if, like, you're a longtime saint. Like when you were born and the doctor slapped you on the rear, you sang Amazing Grace. And some of you, that's your story. Some of you, you're sitting here today, and man, Saturday night is still lingering smell over you right now. 3 people. And so if somebody lit a match into your breath, the whole thing would go up in flames. I get that. I understand that because all the people are welcome here. Longtime saint, still smell like Saturday night, you're welcome. We just want all of us, wherever we to take one step closer to following Jesus. And here's what I want you to don't miss this. Jesus said this very, very carefully. Jesus said, follow me, not follow us. Follow me, not follow us. And so as a church, I don't want you to follow me. I don't want you to follow the church. I don't want you to follow a program. I just want you to follow Jesus. I just want to point you to this guy. Go follow Jesus. Your life will go way better. Following Jesus will make you way better life than if you go out and do your own thing. So our mission as a church is why we exist is we want you to fully follow Jesus. And that word follow has an interesting meaning. It means to walk the same path. It means to walk the same path with Jesus at the front and you following him, not peeking your head out around, not veering off on your own, but fully following Jesus. And so Jesus just simply says, hey, Matthew, follow me. Matthew gets up and he leaves. And this is a big deal because when Matthew follows Jesus, he leaves everything behind. Now, the disciples that were fishermen, if this whole Jesus thing didn't work out, they could always go back to fishing and make a living. But Matthew could not go back to collecting taxes. He was a man without a place to land. Because when he became a tax collector, he snubbed his Jewish countrymen and worked for the Roman government. Now that he's following Jesus, he now snubs the Roman government. So if Jesus doesn't work out, Matthew doesn't have a place to land. And Jesus just simply invites us and says, follow me. And he gets up, and that picture right there, I mean, that would be what he would have seen, and fully follows Jesus through the highs and through the lows and the ups and downs. And I just want myself to take that very next step of obedience and fully follow Jesus, to walk in the same path that he is. Now, over fall break, Brianna and I took our 4 kids up to Colorado to visit my parents up there. We hung out up there, and we were flying back. And if you've ever been to the Denver airport, it's kind of cool, but they've got a bunch of moving sidewalks in a row with the gates on the side. I didn't really want to get on the moving sidewalk, so I just kind of go off to the side and walk down by myself. Brianna knew we had to entertain the kids for about an hour, so she gets on the moving sidewalk like as a ride for the kids. And so she gets up there, and her 4 little chickadees follow her in line. So she's on the moving sidewalk, and we go, and there's 2 of them, but our gate's in between the 2. So Brianna gets off the first one, takes a hard left, and goes to our gate. Daniel and Kara followed her. David and Micah decided the moving sidewalk was a lot of fun. They wanted to get on the second one. So they go to get on the second one, not really paying attention, and I holler at them, hey boys, our gate is over here. And so they hear that, they panic in their little 4-year-old and 9-year-old mind, and they just stop right there on the moving sidewalk. Now, if you've ever been to a busy airport, having 2 little kids stop at the moving sidewalk does not bode well for the people behind them. And so they ran into them, and they're kind of panicked, and so they tried to get on the other moving sidewalk that was going the opposite direction. So they tried to go, and they're just pushing them back. And we were that family that you hate. If you're a professional traveler, we're that family that you're just going, my God, I wish there was a family airport for these kind of people. That was us. We're like, hey boys, over here. And I think oftentimes we're following Jesus, but then this looks a lot more fun. This looks like, man, this could be more fun. Jesus is going this way, you're going this way, and it's a train wreck. And so if in your life it's not going well, I would just simply ask, is there an area of your life that you've yet to fully follow Jesus in? Like I get, like you're here, you're watching online, you're going, hey, I'm in church. That's great. But what about when you're not at church? Like what goes on in your mind? What goes on in your finances? What goes on that business trip when nobody's around? What goes on with your family behind closed doors? What do you look at on your cell phone when you're all by yourself? Those areas of life. Do you fully follow Jesus, or there's an area where Jesus, you're going this way, but this seems way more fun? The why we exist, our mission is to simply to lead people to fully follow Jesus. And I want you to go, and I want you to look back at verse 10. Back at verse 10, it says, Matthew invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disreputable sinners. And I just love this. Now, don't miss this. So Jesus forever changed Matthew's life. Like Matthew, he was tax collector, not really liked by the Jews, but sort of working for the Romans. He gives Matthew purpose, and Matthew follows Jesus. And the only thing Matthew knows what to do is his buddies have got to meet Jesus. But there ain't no way his buddies are stepping foot into a synagogue. They wouldn't even be welcome. So Matthew does the only thing that he knows to do is he just throws a party. He goes, hey, you guys should meet Jesus. Let me invite Jesus. Now, let me just peel back any preconceived notions you have about this party. It was not a church party. It was not sheet cake and fruit punch in the, church gymnasium. This was a party where disreputable sinners would feel comfortable going. Do you know what I'm talking about? One dude. Okay. Thank you for being honest. Especially like, I don't know. You know. All right, you know. They threw a party that disreputable sinners would feel comfortable with and goes, hey, Jesus. And in Luke, it says Jesus was the guest of honor. Jesus just wanted to guess. It was the party was thrown in his honor. So Matthew goes, hey, my buddy's got to meet Jesus. I want Jesus to be there. The only way they're going to feel comfortable is if I create an environment called a dinner party and bring these two together. The vision of our church, what we are trying to do every single week, is we are trying to create a church where life-change stories are written every single week. We're trying to create environments here in this room, in our student room, in our kids' room, out there in the courtyard, in the parking lot, in small groups during the week, at our church in Dawson, on mission trips. Everything that we do, we're trying to create an environment. Step out of the way and go, you should meet Jesus. Because we are confident that if we can get out of the way, that you can connect with Jesus, your life would be forever changed like ours. And so this is what we're trying to do. We're not trying to go through the motions. We're not trying to be cool or, some creative just for creative purposes. We are trying to be intentional on creating environments where kids, students, and adults can meet Jesus. We'll get out of the way and say, let him change your life. So the mission of church, why we exist, we just want to lead people to fully follow Jesus. What we are trying to do together every single week is to create a church, to create an environment where life-change stories are written every single week. All Matthew knew to do is go, listen, I got buddies that need to meet Jesus. Jesus changed my life. I'll create a dinner party. Let those two meet and let Jesus change their lives. And so together as a church, we're trying to do just that. Last fall break, or a couple of weeks ago when we went up to Denver, we flew into Denver, and then my parents live in Fort Collins, about an hour north of Denver. They had just moved there from Texas earlier this year. We had never seen their house. And so we'd planned this trip to go up there to see their house, a new place. It was great. Months leading up to our trip, man, my mom would call, and she wanted everything perfect for the 4 kids. The favorite snacks and the food, and get the little bunk beds ready, and just she wanted everything to be perfect in the outside, and she wanted perfect weather. And she worked really hard preparing this whole week to prepare for our 4 kids coming in. Now, my brother and sister-in-law live up there about 5 minutes from my mom and dad, and they have a 2-year-old little girl, only child. She's as sweet as can be, and she's very quiet and very well behaved and not messy at all. And the only mess she makes is like in this little 4x4 corner of her little toys, and she's just very quiet, and that's what my parents are used to. Then we roll in with our 4 crazies, and you could just see my mom and dad's stress level go up. And so the very first night we were there, they bought this brand new sectional couch and this brand new thing, and it was one of those where the legs things go out, and they're just so proud of it. Oh, look at our couch, this is great. Well, it's got the lever hidden inside the thing, and so it flip it up. Well, we weren't somewhere else in another room. Daniel wanted to go in there and put his feet up, but he couldn't find the lever. And so he thought, well, I must just have to force this thing open. So Daniel sits on my dad's brand new couch and just forces this thing. The couch flips back, completely disassembles, bends the handle. I walk up 30 minutes later, and my dad's just muttering under his breath. I was like, hey, Dad, what happened? Well, Daniel, we broke the couch, and so we had to fix the broken couch. The next day, I hear him ask my mom, hey, Julie, how do I get gum out of the dryer? David had left an entire pack of gum in his pocket, and it melted in the dryer. The last day, I hear my mom ask Brianna, so how much do you guys spend on groceries on a weekly basis? We were like vultures. We completely devoured. We just cleaned them out. The last day, my dad is taking us back to the airport, and you could just tell they're exhausted. And I was like, so what are you and Mom going to do tomorrow? And he's like, well, your mom has professional house cleaners coming tomorrow. It was a lot of work to prepare, but you know what? They'll do it again. Why? Because they want their 4 grandkids to have a great time, to feel welcomed and to feel loved. It's a lot of work? Absolutely, but it's worth it because they're trying to create a welcoming environment. It's the same with we're trying to do things where you feel welcome. Like the courtyard thing out there is not just because we were bored or we had a bubble machine lying around. It's because when you walk in, we want you to feel welcome. We want it to feel warm. We're trying to create a church environment, small groups and large groups and kids and students and adults where you can meet Jesus, we'll get out of the way, and we know that he'll change your life. The mission is to lead people to fully follow Jesus. The vision is to create a church where life-change stories are written every week. And then our values. Our values are how we act as a church, and there are 5 values. The first value is this, is we are for our community. We're for our community. We don't want to be a church just in Forsyth and in Dawson counties. We want to be known as a church that we're for it. We're for the schools, and we're for local businesses, and we're for the community. We're for local nonprofits, and so we volunteer, and we show up, and we serve, and we're in schools. We want to be there not just in our community, but know that we are for our community, we care for them. And so, first and foremost, we are for our community. Second value is this. We like to smile, but we prefer to laugh. We like to smile, but we prefer to laugh. In other words, we take what we do seriously, we just don't take ourselves very serious. I didn't say this at 9:30. I'm going to say it at 11. Y'all can handle it. Like, I've been a Christian for a long, long time. And y'all, Christians can be some of the most like unhappy looking people in the world. Do you know what I'm talking about? Just like, you're supposed to have the joy of the Lord in you. Well, yeah, I got the joy. Like, smile for crying out loud. And so we try to make a point where we want you to at least smile. We'd prefer for you to laugh. And so if you're new here and you read like our signage or our emails or our social media, and you're wondering in the back of your mind, are they trying to be sarcastic? Absolutely we are. Absolutely. Make no doubt about it. Because we take what we do very serious, but we don't take ourselves very serious. And so we want you to walk in and at the very least smile, but we really hope that you laugh. Because why? Because, man, we're a family, and it's just, life goes way better following Jesus and smiling and laughing together. Next one is this, we treat everyone like family. We treat everyone like family. Again, doesn't matter if you're a longtime saint, doesn't matter if you still smell like Saturday night, doesn't matter if you showed up here for the first time, you've been here before me. When you walk up, we want you to know that we treat you like family. And this is the one that I get comments about the most. When I ask people, why'd you like our church? Why'd you start attending our church? They say something like this, it just felt good or different or warm or family. I was like, oh, we feel like Olive Garden. Like, you know, when you hear your family, like, yeah, we want you to walk in. And so our volunteers do an amazing job at this. And complete strangers, man, you go, man, I just feel like I belong here. Why? Because our volunteers know when anybody who walks these doors, we treat you like family. Fourth value is this, we love authenticity. We love authenticity. What you see is what you get, like it or not. You know, we just find it's way easier to be ourselves than anybody else. Here's the interesting thing is being a church in the greater Atlanta area. In Atlanta, there are some world-class churches in our area. World-class music, preaching, and ministries. And there are some amazing churches. We just find it that it's easier to be who God has called us to be. So we're not trying to be another musician, another preacher, another ministry, another church. We're just going, here's how God's wired us when we're gonna stay in our lane. Remember that commercial? Stay in your lane, bro? This section, watch it. Okay, you'll Google it later. We're just running our lane going, this is how God has wired us. This is what God has called us to do. We love authenticity. We're going to be ourselves. We want you to be yourself as well. We understand that, man, life happens and issues happen, but, man, let's just be real and be authentic. And then the fifth and final value is this. We serve, give, and invite to see more life change. We serve, give, and invite to see more life change. If you've been here for a while, then you know this is what we ask of you if you call this place home. If this is your family. We ask that you would serve, that you would give, and that you would invite people. We ask you to show up and serve. I don't know if you know this or not, but it takes between 250 to 300 volunteers every Sunday to pull off Sundays, both here and at our Dawson location. 250 to 300 people show up early, stay late, open up doors, make coffee, teach kids, park cars, run sound, lights, sing. 250 to 300 volunteers. That does not include our weekday volunteers, small group leaders, and mission trip leaders. It takes a lot of volunteers to make a couple of hours of service happen. And so if you have been volunteering on behalf of myself and our leadership, thank you. Like, we could not do what we do without you. Yeah, put your hands together for them. They're amazing. Man, if you're not serving or volunteering, I cannot encourage you enough to do so. You're going, why? Because it makes the church like home and like family, and it makes it smaller. And it's just really fun to roll up your sleeves and to serve with somebody else. And to go, man, this is not just my church where I show up and I soak and take it all in, but man, I give back. We serve. Second thing we do is we give. We give. You need to know that you're sitting next to some of the most generous people that I've ever been around. In the past 4 years, especially myself and the board of directors of this church have been blown away by the generosity of this church. Just the things that you do and that you've given, you've allowed us to accomplish so much ministry and so many great things. A couple of years ago, we launched a capital campaign called Then God, with just some things we need to do for our kids area in Dawson and here. And today, we're 2 years into our 3-year commitment. You've committed $1.5 million to that campaign. And yeah, and the better news is that you've given 1.2 of the 1.5 million within 2 years. Yeah, which is an amazing thing. And so what we've done with that, we've completely remodeled our kids area. We've painted the outside of the building, painted the lobby. We're about to do our parking lot. We've gotten our Dawson location out of a movie theater into a legitimate auditorium and kids space, painted their facility. We've refinanced our long-term debt to a much lower interest rate, which has saved the church $120,000 per year that goes into ministry. And so, yeah, you've done some amazing things. And so if you have given or tithing, thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you're not, you're going, should I or shouldn't I? I cannot encourage you enough to begin to tithe, to begin to give. You're going, why? 2 reasons. Number 1, it puts God first in your finances. You want God first in other areas of your life, marriage, kids, thought life, job. You want Him first in your finances. The way you do that is you begin to give. You begin to tithe. And then the second thing is it funds the local church that you love and you call home. Church 101 is this. The more you and I give, the more ministry we can do to help more people. It's as simple as I can possibly make it. And so when you give, it puts God first and it funds the local church. And I just got to tell you, sitting here on the leadership and being the lead pastor and working with our board of directors, we steward every single nickel to the highest and best use here at this church. We are part of a group called the ECFA. It's a third-party financial accountability firm. It oversees nonprofits and churches. It's extremely stringent to get into it. We are in it. We get audited every year. We got audited for 2018, squeaky clean. And so you just need to know that the leadership of this church is committed to stewarding every nickel to its highest and best use. And then the final thing we ask is you would invite. Most people come to our church because you invited them, right? Whether that's at work or at school or they're a neighbor or you posted on Facebook, they saw it. You get excited about movies and books and restaurants that you go to and you post about them. We want you to be excited about your church because when you're excited about your church, it spreads. When I'm excited about our church, it's weird to invite people to, hey, come listen to me talk for 30 minutes. So you get excited, go, man, let me tell you about my church. Because Matthew, he invited the people to his party and go, you got to come to my party. I'm bringing a guy named Jesus. He changed my life. I trust he's going to change yours. There's a powerful thing in a simple invitation. And your simple invitation to your neighbor, to your friend, or to your coworker, classmate may forever change that person's life. They might overcome an addiction. They may not go through with the divorce. Their family may be brought back together. They may work through some financial hardships. They may see the right counselor and begin to overcome some things. They might get plugged into Celebrate Recovery. You have no idea what your simple invitation was out of my comfort zone. It might be, but isn't it worth taking a step outside of your comfort zone just for a little bit in order to change not only their life, but the generations of their family? And so this is what we ask, that you would serve, that you would give, and that you would invite. Now, I can just tell you, being the pastor here and working with our board of directors and the leadership team, all the church metrics that you would ever be interested in about church and growth and health and all that stuff, it's all up and to the right. It's all great news. But the thing that gets us most excited cannot be captured on spreadsheets. It's things like marriages being restored, addictions being overcome, community being found, friendships being made, loneliness and finding a home and escaping out of loneliness. It's the life-change stories that are written that you cannot capture on a spreadsheet document. That is what gets us excited. And there's so many life-change stories that have been written and will continue to be written because of people like you. And so what I want you to be very, very clear, if you hear nothing else today, I want you to hear from my heart. It's just as a very humbled and grateful pastor, on behalf of myself and our entire board of directors and our staff leadership team, I want you to know this simple thing, that we are so grateful to the grace of God and amazing people like you. We are so grateful. The past 4 years, I'm just telling you, there has been some incredible miracles of God that can only be explained by God. And just as a staff and as a leadership team, we are grateful to the grace of God and the fact that He has used amazing people like you. And whether you've been here before me, or you came here about the same time I did, or you've come on any time in the past 4 years, if the past 4 years are any testament to what God is going to do, I'm just here to tell you that I believe that the best is yet to come. And that the life-change stories that God has written is just a small tip of the iceberg to what's going to happen, and not the next 4 years or 8 years or 12, but in the future for our church. It's because the grace of God, and He uses amazing people like you. I'm going to finish with a story, and then a video our team put together. And this story took 4 years for this story to happen. It took 4 years. It's a personal story that I've seen unfold. I had a front row seat to watch this story unfold, and it finally came full circle late this past summer, a few months ago. 4 years ago, I met a guy named Bob. Bob and I became buddies, but we met in a very unfortunate situation. It was the very first week that we had moved here. I had driven Brianna's car, towed my Honda Accord from Texas all the way to Georgia. The very next day, Brianna's SUV has a blowout. You put 1,000 miles into it, I guess that happens. But the blowout happened, and it bent a lug nut on her wheel. We'd been in town 2 days. In our rental house, talked to a neighbor. You're brand new in town, you don't know any mechanics. And we go, do you know, of a mechanic that you'd recommend? And he goes, yeah, there's this place called Scott's down the road. Go there. So we kind of limp into there. I meet a guy there named Kevin. He works on a car. Turns out the manager of this place is a guy named Bob. Bob happened to go to a church called Mountain Lake Church. And I was like, do you like it? I was like... And so over the next 4 years, Bob and I had become really close friends. Brianna and I put a lot of miles on our cars, and so we visited the mechanic a lot. And so we got to know Bob really well over the past 4 years. What I've known about Bob over the past 4 years is that Bob is a Christian but had yet to been baptized. And so every summer near our outdoor baptism, I just text him, hey, Bob, can I baptize you this year? Well, yeah, maybe we'll see. No problem. Year 2. Hey, Bob, can I baptize you this year? Well, maybe we'll see. Year 3, this summer, year 4, I text him the week of our outdoor baptism, which is always the last Sunday in July. Say, hey, Bob, outdoor baptism is coming up. Can I baptize you? Well, we'll see. I'll think about it. Okay. I didn't hear anything from him. That Sunday outdoor baptism, Bob always sits right there at the 11 o'clock service, and I roll in. Bob is sitting there in a swimsuit and a T-shirt. And I looked at him. He goes, today is the day. I could barely stand up here and preach. I was so excited about that. And so we walked out there in front of everybody, baptized him. He comes up out of the water. He's crying. His wife is crying. They're hugging. And I was like, this is why I love our church. This is why, stories like this, people like Bob, people like you, this is why I love our church. And I think this is why you love your church. And life-change stories don't always happen overnight. They don't always happen at the end of the week or at the end of the service. Sometimes they take years, but they're so worth it. And that's just a little taste of what God has been doing the past 4 years at our church. And I just want to tell you that I'm so fired up about what God is going to do. These past 4 years for Brianna and I have been the most fun that we've had ministering together in a community in a local church. And for the past 4 years, again, the amount of fun that we've had is any testament to what God is going to do. I look forward to the future with wide eyes and excitement and anticipation about what God's going to do here at our church. Now, over the past several months, our media team sat down with a group of individuals and just said, hey, tell us your story of your encounter with Mountain Lake and what it's meant to you. And a group of people sat around a table and just began to share stories, and our media team captured them just with some footage. And so I want you to watch this video, and I want you to watch it with excitement and with anticipation about what God's going to do, and with grateful hearts about what God has done. So sit back and watch and listen to these life-change stories.
I never felt like at home because my whole family is still in New York. But since moving here and joining Mountain Lake and our small group, honestly, this is the first time in the 15 years that I've been in Georgia where I feel like I'm at home. And it's all because of what Mountain Lake has done for me and my family and the community and the people I've met here.
It's almost like he's preaching to me every time I go there, and how I can relate to that, and it just helped me be comfortable there, and it changed my life personally. It changed my family's life.
We found a place where it just felt safe. You know, you talk about kids and you want safe for them, and yet here we are at, 46 and 47, and we want the safe place, and that's what we needed.
I think after the third time of going to Mountain Lake and seeing the change in my husband, he's always had, to me, a tremendous faith, and he's always had a very outgoing faith. He's not afraid to let people know where he stands with God at all. And to see that part of him again, it was like a light switch went back on, and he was engaged in worship.
I have never felt judged, period, and that to me is amazing.
I can worship how I want to, the way I want to, and it doesn't matter who's around.
But from the moment I walked in here, I never felt anything but welcome. I could be exactly who I am. It's just like so refreshing to be who you are and not have to try and be someone else.
I think it's fun. I think the kids have fun, and that to me is a new concept for church.
One morning I can remember in Sunday school, my daughter talked about how they learned to pray. And then I let her pray that evening at dinner, and it was like, it blew me away. I mean, I never knew that my daughter had that type of relationship with Jesus Christ.
I just immediately felt that connection, and I really liked the sense of community.
I don't have to just show the good parts. I can be authentic, and I can be open and honest with my past or where I am, by my struggles, and I'm going to be accepted and loved regardless.
Man, if that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will. You are the greatest church on this planet. I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for being a part of what God is doing. And so we've got an amazing celebration out there in the lobby. We've got cupcakes. We've got live music. Stick around, hang out. This is your church. I love you guys. God bless you. We will see you next Sunday.